Hello. Hello, world. Okay. I've managed to time this perfectly with everyone going to sleep in my house. So I'm just going to be talking very quietly. But hopefully that fits with the aesthetic. Just means that... God, this is so ASMR. It just means that I may just end up muttering to myself. And if I do, you should tell me to speak up. Say, speak up. I'm also not entirely sure as to what I'm looking like at the moment. No, that's not too bad. Live with that. Alright. Well, let me quietly explain what's going on here. Let's just see what my audio is like. Okay, that's fine. Oh, I should have some nice music playing. Let's do that. Oh yeah. Alright. Serious sounding, but we can live with it. Let's bring up the ice cat. Bring up the free software browser of doom. There we go. Do sort of need explainers, so maybe let's add that to the to-do. I feel like this font needs to be bigger. Just give me a shout in the chat if you want to chat. I'm just living my best life. Working on my own here in sunny San Francisco. How do I set my default font? Here we go. I wonder if I can just change that. Does that work? No. Here we go. I am not an expert on Emacs. So, I think probably you spend most of your life messing with the font face settings in Emacs if you're not careful. Maybe where the best days of my generation have gone. Oh yeah, they have a menu bar. This is the sort of place you'd expect to find it, right? Yeah. You think good? Oh, a little too big. Let's make. Okay, let's see. Oh, you know, it'll work. Yeah. I think you can read that. Everything's font 14. Let's clear away my. Do you think singing along is a bad idea? Probably. This is a catchy free software, no, free software, open licensed track here. It is called. Oh, I have no idea what it's called. There we go. Feels good to be alive too. Alright, I'm just getting back in practice here. I hope you'll forgive me. So, I don't know what is that, writing that out now. Oh shit, that's writing to the wrong directory. Never mind. Okay. Alright, what are you looking at here? A lot has changed since you were last not here. And mainly what I've been doing is switching to Guix. Pronounced Guix. Maybe I should actually just write this in a blog post. In Emacs. God. Okay. The story so far. As the intro already says, working. Setting up my new, so new now. Interesting. My new laptop. Other the old laptop. It's a T460S. 60S. 16. Through number of permutations. Oh. I have my beeliner. Beeminder goals to achieve today. Do you know about Beeminder? So Beeminder is kind of interesting. Can I show you this without revealing my secrets? I think so. I think it's all pretty public. So Beeminder is a thing where if you don't do what you said you would do, you end up paying Beeminder $30. Sounds terrible, right? Sounds like you're actively stealing money from yourself and giving it to somebody very shifty. But in fact, they're not shifty at all. They're actually this really nice couple. Let's see if I can find them. Daniel Reeves and Bethany. And I don't know why DuckDuckGo is not showing like images and news and things anymore. Beeminder couple. See it anywhere. They like simplified everything. Well, don't find it. Oh, I see. This is what. Aha. Is that them? I don't know. There they are. They're very nice. Anyway, I randomly give them money if I fail to do things by midnight. So, encouraged to do things before midnight. I put out 2 tweets to Olabini. Progress there. What else? I brushed my teeth today. This was the slightly embarrassing one. Do not look at how often I brush my teeth. Very ashamed of it. And then I also took my medicine. I'm actually lying here. I didn't take my medicine, but I'm going to take my medicine after this. It's pretty cool. All these people you can connect with. And my particular Beeminder commitments. And I'm hoping I'm not revealing anything here. Improvements, doing Anki, listening to a podcast. Sleeps, Jaws, all kinds of things. Alright. That's nice, but slowly reflected growing interest in new generation. We software activists attempting to recreate, pick up the GNU project from pre-Linux days and build what could reasonably say to be the dream machine. Richard Stallman, early free software hackers. That's to say, made operating system, made to the free software with a heavy emphasis on Lisp. Richard Stallman, the founder of the free software movement, really grew up in MIT's lab, and his pain from seeing his community's lofty goals rendered demolished by proprietary profit-making, profiteering. Good. There came from observing the dismantling one of the first Lisp machines. Lisp users have a reputation from observing the collapse demolished. Came from seeing the MIT hackers work on early Lisp machines. Undermined by proprietary profit-making goals. Or bitterness. Never. Anyways, they had Oh, hey, Kibutsu. Thank you. It's good to see you, my biggest fan. I am just writing, I guess I'm just writing what I'm doing, which is a little strange, but from this time would many of the Oh, excellent. Well, that's nice. We can do it together. I'm sorry that you haven't done any coding for 6 months now, because that's how frequent I've been working on my code. That's not true. I don't want to say. Okay, so I've ended up experimenting with Guix, which is one of the attempts to reboot, if not the perfect dream of the Lisp machine, at least a system with some of its attributes. Guix is an operating system which, while not entirely written in Lisp, is defined by Lisp. It's what's called a what is it called? Deterministic functional what do we call Nixos and Guix? Declarative. Declarative. Distribution. I'm a big fan of yours. Are you actually streaming your hobbyist coding? That would be super interesting. I would totally watch the hell out of you. Kibitsu. Although, if we were doing it at the same time, then we would just be looking at each other's screens, and that would be less useful. It's not terrifying at all. No one's watching. And I don't know. It helps me concentrate. There's a brilliant guy, actually. As I was experimenting with going back on Twitch, I ended up having a really good conversation with someone who is, what is the TRS 100? There's this game called, damn it, it's a video game about a 80s computer. No, that's not gonna put it in. DuckDuckGo, don't let me down. TS 100. Here we go. TIS 100. It's a puzzle video game and programming game developed by Zachtronics. Oh, should I be talking quieter? Yes. Okay. I will talk a little quieter. It is very late. Can I actually ASMR whisper? Maybe. Oh god, now I feel very throaty. Well, whatever. I can just do this as an affectation. Anyway, this is a modern video game, which is a simulation of a really, actually maybe not, maybe more 70s architecture. Anyway, one of this other Twitcher is setting themselves the task of actually building this using period appropriate hardware. It is fantastic. If this wasn't already a really amazing game. I'll try and find the guy. I wonder if is he on now? I'm not sure. Let me just check. You're now watching someone watching Twitch. This is my only way of finding out because I have no short or medium long-term memory. It doesn't get a lot of watches, to be honest. Well, if he's around, I'll send you the details. Okay, so it's Shenzhen IQ. I'm kind of interested now. So I have to say, the idea of playing with a simulated game computer when I'm having enough problems with a real one. Well, I guess that's one of the questions about games, isn't it? That you have at least the theory that you're going to have a completed goal. Whereas if you're dealing with the real world, sadly the goals are not so clearly defined. We're in some sort of awful open game that no one's explained to us. Okay. So Guix is what's called a declarative distribution. It's really not. I just made that up, but I'm sure someone could end up calling it that. You describe the operating system you want with its packages, filing system, and programs. Users, filing system, and programs. And the system, the Guix system installer, creates that machine, that installation for you. Packages, software packages. Here's the Guix description of the machine currently writing on. Okay, this is Emacs. I've also switched to Emacs. I know, but I'm running Emacs with something called Evil, which emulates very well Vim, which is the polar opposite of Emacs. It's a very good sort of embrace and extend strategy. Anyway, so Emacs is primarily written in Lisp and was also written by Richard Stallman. And it's a different Lisp to the one that we're just about to look at, but they're very similar. Anyway, I thought I'd go the whole hog and also play around with Emacs. There we go. Here. Did that not work? Oh shit, did I just write that file to that? God, did I just write my description of the description to the description? No. Okay, good. That would have not gone well. System.stm. Here we go. So this is the file, and because I'm using Emacs, and because I'm also using a thing called org, I believe there is some way that I can say this is written in this language. Is that it? I have to check. Emacs source. No, org mode source. It's just going to point me to the program. No, very good. DuckDuckGo. Here we go. So this isn't the Lisp that Stallman was playing with, and it isn't actually Emacs Lisp, which is what this is. I'm going to change that in a moment. I guess I have to put in source, right? Okay. Just put autocomplete. Sort of just learning the way around Emacs. Same? Yeah, that looks right. Oh, look at that. It's all colored properly. And when I move over these things, I think it tells me useful and interesting things about it. Okay. So I think I'm going to go to sleep in a minute, but let me just describe what I'm looking at here and stop madly scrolling. I might make it a little bit bigger as well. Okay, what are we looking at? Well, first of all, you can tell this is Lisp because it's got more parentheses than a nail clipping factory. Lisp is notable for Oh yeah, Shenzhen. Yeah, I've heard of that. Sorry, I'm just catching up with the chat. Lisp is famous for defining everything in a program using parentheses or function calls, and pretty much there are some other things, but those get you a long way. The idea in Lisp is a bracket starts a list, and a list can be one of these things, which is a symbol, I believe, or another list, and other things like strings and numbers and so forth. But basically, it's a list of things that can include lists. And the famous thing with Lisp is that programs take the same structure as data, most data. So my mouse suddenly stopped moving. Does that mean everything stopped? No, you're all still here. So there's not much difference between program code and data in Lisp, which leads to a lot of interesting things, but does mean that it takes a bit of getting used to when you look at it. But the first thing you should look at in a Lisp program is what comes immediately after the parenthesis, and that's the function call. So this is a bit like Python would be written use modules GNU, or probably, yeah, GNU would be a variable of some kind, and use modules would be the function you are calling. So in Lisp, you don't really have the brackets around here. This is actually, if we go down here, this is another function call, and you can see that has 2 arguments, but there are no brackets. So that would be like service rules AB in Pascal or something similar. So then this is calling it. So we could say if A equals SSH, and do this, and it would be true, sort of, because this is passing SSH as the first argument to function uservice modules. So in this case, actually, if we again think of this in terms of Python, sort of like, oh, let's print what we have. Then you ran this bit of it. You would get something like this, because this is a list. Brackets are parentheses saying that this is a list with one thing in it, and that one thing is GNU. So this is actually, I completely lied. This is much more like Python's import statement. This is like saying import GNU. Which comes to another thing that we sort of said about Lisp, which is that Lisp really doesn't have much in the way at all of things like import, of what would be in Python a command. Some things in Lisp, in Python, aren't function calls. So if you're an old school Python person, you might have done this in Python too. These days, they've actually turned this into a function, but in the old days, it was a command. It was something very different. And so in Python, you might say if A equals smelly, ew else print. I'm gonna make this ASMR if it kills me. You don't have these are commands, right? These are things that aren't function calls. Like this is a function call, and it's this, right? Double equal? Can't remember. But there we go. We could actually do that. Oh, and we could say begin source Python. All right, check it out. It's formatting it. It's colorizing it as though it was living Python. So in Lisp, you would write that. You were foolish enough to want to. You would write that like this. You would say if and this is a weird pretend Lisp, but it'll work. Yeah. You will probably not have an else. You would probably go like that. You can see here that it's got the same structure, but everything is in a list, and everything is some sort of function call, right? We can say if, and this would be a special function to compare this and this, and then part of the definition of if would say if this my first argument is true, then do my second argument, otherwise do my third argument. So this basically turns everything into function calls. There's some stuff that is a little behind the scenes to make everything work. For instance, in a setup like that, if you imagine we tried to do this in Python, we would run into a problem, because we would go my if, this would be my function, and then we could say something like, we couldn't give it a print, but there's a thing in Python called a lambda, which you can say, I think it's something like this, what we could say. Actually, I don't think we can even print, but let's say that there's a, okay, let's say we can do that. That'll work. I know. We'll write a program that is like def is 4, and that takes 2 arguments, A, B, and C. Then you would say this indenting a bit enthusiastically. You would write a function that said return B equals C. Okay. And then would, assuming that we've written this if program, you would say if is equal a smelly, then make the second function this, and then make the third function this. And then you would try and write this, and you would discover that it wouldn't work, because actually the problem here is that that as soon as you ran my if, it would print U and it would print R. Can you see that? Because it will evaluate these functions before it actually calls my if, because it needs to know what they are or their return values to give to my if. And actually, Python has the same problem. Lisp has the same problem, but they get around it by making if what's called a special form. And if actually holds on from evaluating either of these things until it knows what the answer to this is. But that's pretty unusual, and I think just by explaining that to you, I have actually told you 90% of what you need to know about Lisp syntax, which is why people like Lisp. Okay, so spend 10 more minutes doing this and then I'm going to wrap up. So we have these modules. We're obviously loading a module. And we're loading the GNU modules. And then we learn it. This is me cheating. I have got some non-free software on this computer at the moment. But it's only so I can use Wi-Fi on this laptop. So that's the non-new. And then look, it's saying load the GNU package for certs and Vim. Oh, and I want SSH and a desktop. And I also want some of these things. This isn't actually the bit that sort of makes those things happen. It's more like saying import GNU packages Vim and import services, probably GNU services, right? SSH port GNU services desktop. I think that's pretty much what it's saying. So these lists of things are just different modules that it's importing. But they'll all come in useful later because we actually define our operating system here. Here is its host name. Here is the time zone. We want a Linux kernel. We want the terrible non-free Linux firmware that I've found off the back of a lorry. The bootloader is how it's going to start up. This is an encrypted drive that I would like it to mount. Here's a list of filing systems that it should know about. Let's look and where it should mount them. Here is the user account I would like it to create. And I would like it to use Sway because, and this will blow your mind, readers, I'm actually using Wayland right now. This isn't X Windows, this is the new hotness, Wayland, and Sway is the windowing manager that this one-man force of nature called Circumwin, whose name I think is Drew something. He's pretty much building this whole world of, I wouldn't say retro, but maybe through default of things that are based on, he has done more than just, oh look, he's on Twitch. I'll add him. Probably already have. Am I following him? Look, there's a Sway hackathon right now. Yeah. Can I find out when he's on? Because I'm using a lot of his software. So Drew not only built this very basic, in a good way, window manager for Wayland. Wayland's supposed to be the new and modern replacement, simplification of X Windows by the people who worked on X Windows. But one of the troubles is that you have to invest a fair bit of time into getting things that work with Wayland, even though it's simpler. And the only people who've sort of had those resources are the big Linux companies like Red Hat, and also a little bit Qt, the people that do Qt, which pose this risk that if you like really simple systems, of just, a screen terminal and nothing much else, then you might be left behind. So Drew, in kind of a recapitulation of what Richard Stallman did, said about writing himself everything that you would need, which included a window manager, when he realized that actually writing a window manager for Wayland was something that no one else had really done. He wrote out a library so that other people could do what he did. And then because he didn't want to use GitHub, or because he didn't like GitHub as much, he just started building this site, which is now this whole separate project, which is, if you like, very simple pieces of software, or websites that are just very basic like this, then he's built everything for you. You can run mailing lists from this. You can automatically build your software. It's kind of pretty much what GitHub offers people, only just wrote it himself and stripped out all the stuff that perhaps you don't need. I don't know. Anyway, and it's all in sort of Courier. Well, this looks kind of interesting. What's task automation? Huh. Well, will you look at that? Anyway, I wanted to see whether I could build a system around that and around some very basic packages that I needed, and a minimum setup with just SSH, so forth. You write this sort of program, and then you run it, and then creates all of this stuff, and it just worked. I'm lying again, it didn't just work. It took quite a lot of fiddling around, but it's a very early setup. There's something very nice about the idea that I could like fiddle and change one part of this, run the program again, and I would get sort of a completely different setup. And then also, if I was to run that again on another machine, I would get exactly the same setup, which is very exciting. I think it means that you have some determinism to your software. It also means that, like, if something screwed up, you can roll back much more easily. Okay, I think that's probably a good place to stop. I didn't get to do much, but I don't actually care, because I think this is really good to have documented. Okay, really nice to see everyone, particularly Kibitsu, who I think may have been the only person watching, but that's okay too. And enjoy your coding, and I'll try and do this more often. Bye everyone.